And now it's time for a Q&A from you, the viewers, and I wanted to talk about two things related to the Plex video that I uploaded recently. The first one came from John, who is concerned that plugins are going to be potentially going away completely from the Plex platform. It looks like they're going to allow manual plugin installation for the time being, but over time they might remove it altogether. And John says if those plugins go away, he is done with Plex. Victor here was curious about Plex Cloud, which is a more recent feature that Plex recently announced they were getting rid of. Plex Cloud allowed you to have a Plex server running in their cloud, and you could connect up your Dropbox or Google Drive where you have media stored and serve through that. So even if your home server was not working, you could do it through the cloud. They got rid of that as well. Now, if you're curious as to why they're making all of these changes, they do have a new blog post up on their website where they detail the features they are thinking of getting rid of or will be getting rid of and their reasoning behind it. And I'm going to speak to you just as a YouTube creator and some of my own experiences having to decide what's the best for my business growth versus what people want to see. As well as some experiences I've had as a user of software where features have been removed or deprecated, and I certainly understand where people are coming from on this. I'm not going to be speaking as an official Plex spokesperson here. I haven't talked to them about this, but it's very clear as to why they're making these decisions based on this blog post. So all of the features that they're getting rid of this month are going away because there are not many people using them. Now, I know the plugin community is probably some of the most long-standing Plex users who are very devoted to the platform, so even though it's 2%, it's going to feel like a lot more, especially for people who are really depending on these plugins. The good news for them, at least at the moment, is that they're not going away completely. They're going to be manually installable for the foreseeable future, but it looks like from Plex's perspective, as their platform grows and matures, there are things that they need to change to make things work better. One thing they suggested in the blog post is that there are third-party applications that link up with Plex, and they see that perhaps as the way to move forward for maybe augmenting some features that might be lacking on the main Plex architecture. And they gave an example of one application, and I can think of their little audio player that we looked at a few weeks ago that also connects with Plex externally, not through a plugin mechanism. So that's probably where they want to go. It's probably difficult for them, as they mentioned here in the blog post, to connect some of the protocols they're using for these plugins with all the new features they keep adding. And I would bet they're seeing growth in areas that aren't so compatible with plugins, for example, and that's probably why they want to focus on the growth areas and focus their team on new features and fixing bugs for things that people do use, as opposed to spending a lot of time trying to fix things and make them work with features that are not heavily used by a large number of users. And in my own experience here as a YouTube creator, I have made similar decisions. The best example is my didn't make the cut videos, where I would look at 3 products and tell you why they weren't so great. I do want to do those again, but what I found was that I had to spend a lot of time on those videos, and I wasn't getting a lot of viewership of those. There was a small subset of subscribers that loved them. I know who you all are, and I'm committed to trying to get it back again at some point, but it wasn't generating the type of watch time and engagement that some of my other videos do. And in looking at how those did versus the others, I really need to focus my time on things that drive growth right now, and that's why we haven't done one of those in a while. There might be a week where I've got some time and I'll push one of those out, but it's not a priority now based on what I see as growth areas of the channel. And conversely, the weekly wrap-up has gotten longer because we're actually seeing more watch time the longer it gets, which is great, which means people are interested in this show, and I've been spending more time on this as a result of some of the data I got back. So no doubt they have gone through similar analyses on their end to figure out what's best for users and growth moving forward. And I am using Plex differently now than I did when I first got into it. And I think that's probably the case for a lot, but not all users. And that's always the balance that you have to strike there. Now, as a user of some other things, I've experienced some issues lately. Just about a week or two ago, we were talking about 2 applications that I depend on quite heavily for my personal organization, OmniFocus and Inbox by Gmail. And in the last 2 weeks, 2 things have happened to these 2 applications. Inbox has been announced to be on the chopping block completely, so it's going to disappear very shortly. OmniFocus pushed out a great new update, except the way that I look at OmniFocus has changed significantly in this update, in that I can't sort my tasks out the way I used to on the prior version of OmniFocus, and I had to fill in a feature request to them to bring back some basic due date sorting when you look at a particular view of your upcoming tasks. And to me, it's a very simple thing. I've been using their application this way for close to 10 years, but apparently I wasn't one of the majority of users that was doing that. And as a result, when this new version came out, I spent at least an hour trying to find how to sort my tasks out, only to learn that that's not how it works anymore. And I was really quite upset about that. And this is something that happens to all of us, unfortunately, when we do something in a way that's different than the rest of the world. And I think applications like these that are very feature rich are the ones that are probably at the greatest risk for these things happening. You adopt a workflow, and then that workflow tends not to be what the rest of the world is doing, and suddenly your workflow has to get reworked. And that was what I experienced this week. I'm hoping they can add mine back in, because it's a very simple thing to add, I would imagine. But for the meantime, I had to develop some workarounds, which are working, but not perfectly just yet. And this is unfortunately life in the 21st century with these applications that are constantly in development.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold level supporters Chris Allegretta, the Four Guys with Quarters podcast, Tom Albrecht, Gerard Newberg, and Kalyan Kumar. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to lon.tv/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit lon.tv/s.